So now we're going to be moving on to lesson 4. This is actually multiplying. So we've done addition, we've done subtraction, so now we're going to do multiplication. Make sure you're on pages 439 through 446 before we begin. And then when you're all set, turn your page. Okay, solve a multiplication equation. So off to the side, I know number 1 is already done, but we're going to do it together. I want you to write 2x equals 10. This will count as our rewrite. Just as we did with addition and subtraction, you're going to need to rewrite each problem. Now, we're going to draw our line, find the variable, and highlight it. Since the 2 and the x are touching, that means it's multiplication. Just like we did with addition and subtraction, we did the opposite operation. So what is the opposite of multiplication? Division. We are not, do not write this, we are not using the division sign. No, no, no. We need to use a fraction bar because remember, fractions are kind of just like a division. So I'm going to divide. This you can write. Draw this division bar. This is what we're going to be using now, not the line with the 2 dots. If you do the line with the 2 dots, unfortunately, you will lose points in credit. So I have my x highlighted. I need to kick out whatever's with the x. There's a 2, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is just 1. How many x's do you see here? You see just 1. So I can either put the 1 in front of the x or just leave it as x. I'm going to cancel those out, and this means 10 divided by 2. What is 10 divided by 2? 5. So my answer is 5. I'm going to do the check over here. You guys can do it wherever. I'm just not sure if you have enough room. I recopy 2x equals 10. The 2 and the x are touching, so that's multiplication. What did we think our x was? We thought our x was 5, so that goes in for x. And that equals 10. 2 times 5 is 10, so 10 equals 10. So the checks are very similar, almost identical to the checks that we did for adding and subtracting. All right, let's look at example 2. 3x equals 6, so let's rewrite. 3x equals 6, draw my line, highlight my variable. Okay, I have to kick out whatever's with the x. The 3 is with the x, so I'm going to get rid of multiplication with division. And remember, I'm just drawing a straight line. Divide both sides by 3. 3 divided by 3 is just 1, so I can cancel those out. I'm left with an x. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So x equals 2. Let's check. So anywhere I see an x, I'm going to be putting a 2. So 3x equals 6. The 3 and the x are touching, so that's 3 times x we thought was 2, hopefully equals 6. 3 times 2 is 6. Whoops, let's continue sharing. 3 times 2, 6. So 6 equals 6. That checks out perfectly. All right, let's go down to the got it's now. I am going to do A and B with you. You are going to try C on your own. So let's look at A. We recopy it. 3x equals 15. Draw my line, highlight my variable. So what am I getting rid of here? The 3. It's multiplication. How do you get rid of multiplication? We do division. So I'm going to divide, and remember I'm using the line, not the line with the 2 dots. Both sides by 3. And I get x equals 15 divided by 3 is 5. Now I need to check. I'm going to put my check over here. You guys should have room still. 3x equals 15. 3, remember the x is an x and not a time sign. Times 5 equals 15. So 15 equals 15. Check. That's good. All right, let's try B. I'm going to draw a line just to separate them. Rewrite it. So I do 8 equals 4x. Draw my line, highlight. So my x is over here on this side, but that does not change how I'm going to do the problem. I kick out whatever's with the x. So in this case, the 4 is with the x. It's multiplication, so I'm going to divide both sides by 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So we think x equals 2. Now for our check, we rewrite x, or 8 equals 4x. 8 equals 4 times, what do we think x is? We think x is 2. And 4 times 2 is 8. So 8 equals 8. We did that one correctly. Okay, you're going to do C on your own. Pause the video here. When you're ready, press play. Okay, so 2x equals 14. We rewrite, draw our line, highlight my variable. This one I'm kicking out the 2. So divide both sides by 2. X equals 14 divided by 2 is 7. Make sure we're doing division because that's the opposite of our subtraction and addition, or opposite of multiplication, sorry. Now we write check. We rewrite the problem. 2, it's touching the x, so that's multiplication because it's touching. We think the x is 7. 2 times 7 is 14, so 14 equals 14. We did that one correctly. Great job. All right, let's turn our page. All this is, the division property of equality is saying if you divide each side by the same number, the two sides remain equal. So whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other is what that's saying. So let's look at our next example. We have some got it's, but they have decimals. Now we're going to solve these exactly the same way as the other ones, except we're just going to need to use our calculator a little bit more because there's decimals involved. So I'm going to do E. You are going to be doing F and G on your own. So let me draw a little separation here. We rewrite 2.25n equals 6.75. Draw my line, highlight my variable. The 2.25 and the n are touching, so to get rid of the multiplication, we need to do division. To do division, remember we draw our line, and I got to kick out the 2.25 from both sides. Those cross off, I'm left with n equals. So now let's pull out our calculator, and we're going to do 6.75 divided by 2.25. That gives me 3 as my answer. Now to do the check, I write the word check, rewrite the problem, and now substitute in. Wherever I see an n, I'm putting a 3. So 2.25, oh, here's an n. What sign do I need to put in between those if they're touching? Multiplication. Make sure you do that. And now I actually do the math. I'm going to take the 3, multiply it by 2.25. Oops, 6.75. Great job. All right, F and G on your own. So pause the video here. When you're ready, you guys can press play. Okay, recopy the problem. Find the variable and highlight it. It's multiplication. To get rid of multiplication, we're going to do division. So I'm going to divide by 1.7. Those cross off. I'm left with B equals 8.5 divided by 1.7 gives me 5. These are working out to be really nice answers. Now wherever I see a B in my check, I'm going to substitute what we think is the answer of 5. So 1.7b equals 8.5. 1.7, it's touching the B. Make sure your multiplication looks like a multiplication. So I'm going to try 5 times 1.7 and I get good, 8.5. So check that you have all of this written down correctly. Let's do G. So 6.15y equals 55.35. Draw my line, highlight my variable. Again, the 6.15 and the y are touching. To get rid of that is what operation? Well, it's multiplication. To get rid of it, you're going to do division. Both sides by 6.15. Y equals, so 55.35 divided, remember that line means divided by, 6.15 gives me a plain old 9. So I do my check. 6.15y equals 55.35. 6.15, it's touching the y, so that's multiplication. And I think the answer is 9. I'm going to multiply these two together. So 6.15 times my 9 gives me 55.35. So that means we did the question right. Okay, when you're ready, turn your page. And you are going to be doing the guided practice on your own. I would like you to do numbers 1, 2, and 3 on your own. So pause the video here. When you're ready, push play, and then I will be going over them. Okay, so 2a equals 6. Draw my line, highlight my letter, divide both sides by 2. A equals 3. I'm not going to check these ones just because of time, but you guys should have gone and checked them. Divide both sides. Make sure I highlight my letter. So this one's a little odd because the letter or variable is on the other side, but that's okay. You still kick out whatever's with it. So I'm going to kick out the 4. C should have been given 5 as your answer. 9.4G equals 28.2. Highlight. It's multiplication, so I get rid of it with division. So 28.2 divided by 9.4 gives me a plain old 3. So hopefully your checks had 3 lines where you rewrote, you substituted in. If you have any questions on the checks, feel free to ask in class. Last thing I need for you to do is to rate yourself. Are you clear? Smiley face. Somewhat clear? Or not so clear? So make sure you rate yourself and we can kind of discuss that tomorrow in your understanding. All right, that's it for our video today. Have a great rest of your night.